Hello, hello. Bl'Artagnan here with Assailing Divine Leviathan. We're bringing a no BT, no friend unit team featuring Beatrix, Rem, and Bosch. Before we get too deep into it, be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, ring that notification bell, and leave a comment down below with, goodness gracious, that was like 10% of the boss's health with 2 actions. Jesus Lord. Anyway, where were we? So, this fight, we got a big fish, big old fish right here. We're gonna take it down. So there's actually a fair amount going on in this fight, even though I will say this team really kind of trivializes the entirety of it. So as you saw, he does that big old threshold attack whenever you bring him below certain amounts, 90, I think 70, 50, 30, I don't know, it happens a bunch. At the 80, 50, and 30% thresholds, he also brings up those bubbles. Those bubbles spam HP attacks, and those HP attacks also apply a debuff that reduces your HP damage dealt, although this team doesn't notice because we're bringing a butt ton of HP damage up buff through the 3 different people on the party. It also, there's an orb you see there. That orb, it's an interesting orb, I think. It goes down by 1 on player turns. It's like, oh no. It goes up by 1 whenever you either reduce brave damage through a buff or dodge an attack. And it goes up by 3 if the entire party does, which is why they spam AoE HP attacks the entire fight. And if it hits 45, it actually goes away, which is kind of neat. It comes back later, but if it goes away once, you're probably not going to notice it if it comes back again. If it goes off, it actually does a more powerful version of its recast and applies a debuff that stops you from gaining battery. My original clear of this brought Lena because I didn't realize it only does that on the orb attack, not on the recast and threshold attacks. So there's actually not too much to worry about as far as debuffs go in this fight, so long as the orb doesn't go off. I mean, this HP damage thing is like whatever. You'll see there, it doesn't actually stop us at all. We're still capping because this fight has hilariously minimal reductions. I think it caps the brave gain reductions at 70%, and I didn't actually see brave damage reductions anywhere in the boss description, so you'll see we're going to be capping the whole fight. It's going to be kind of similar to Ifrit. Ifrit? Shoot, I always mispronounce. Anyway, probably the most annoying thing about this fight, aside from the fact that it constantly spams HP attacks, is that whirlpool, which shows up at 90%, and it means every time, you'll see Beatrix's turn got delayed. Every time you act, that character gets sent back 2 turns, and it's just kind of a hassle. He also applies a shield to himself periodically, or some kind of buff, but, well, Beatrix just kind of instantly gets rid of it, so... So let's talk team. What's going on with this team? The first thing I did when I saw this fight was I said, I'm going to bring Bosch, because any fight that's trying to sell Zac BT is probably going to get, like, hard countered by Bosch. And I was right. You'll see he barely takes any scratches. Mostly AoE HP attacks. It's all good. Next up, I brought Beatrix. And it turns out she's actually the real linchpin of the team. Bosch is cool and all, but Beatrix is the one who really just kind of trivializes this fight. I actually saw someone who did an auto plus run of this with Beatrix and Orin, and that was it. They just pressed auto plus, and that took down the fight. My thinking with Beatrix was I wanted a decent damage dealer who also counterattacks with splash damage, with a buffed-based counter. I know there's a lot of stuff to stack up, but the thinking here was, because of these delays that we get hit with, the bosses are going to be taking a ton of turns, and we know that they have minions. So, on the minions' turns, I want Leviathan to be taking damage. That's where Splash comes in, and if the bosses are taking a bunch of turns, the debuff counters from like a Furion or something will wear down quickly. You'll see Beatrix's rose petals are going to fall off very fast over the course of the fight. Luckily, Beatrix's counter is tied to her noble loyalty buff, so she just kind of keeps splash damaging on them. She was a 5 out of 5 ultimate with greatsword, so that was pretty cool. Good foresight by me, I guess. And so that's cool. Lastly, I brought Rem. I know I said I brought Lena originally, but I decided to try it with Rem, and it worked a bit smoother because, well, just higher HP damage cap from her armor, so you see we're doing nearly 200,000 damage per HP attack, which is great because Beatrix doesn't have that many HP attacks outside of her EX. And she just has great auras, good damage, and I figured she could swap Beatrix up to make her act more often because our biggest source of damage is Beatrix's EX, and so the more turns Beatrix takes, the more of those turns are going to be EXs, which means the more million damage attacks. So that's my thought process. So we resist veil. Oh no, it's got the Well, it had a buff, but it's gone now because Beatrix also dispels that debuff, or the buff that they put on themselves. You'll see I brought exclusively damage calls. Obviously, the debuff calls, as I mentioned, wouldn't be super helpful because they just get rid of them. Oh yeah, 50% the orb's back. It disappeared. I didn't even notice. Unfortunately, as you saw at the opening of the fight, I had hoped to get them all in before it went below 90%, but Cyan and Beatrix just kind of immediately chunked it, and so I had to use Greg and Tifa later in the fight, and so it was still free damage as far as turn count goes, but it didn't really do anything outside of just, getting people delayed and just doing some extra damage. It probably wasn't necessary. You'll see there they hit Beatrix with Spume, which seems wrong. I'm pretty upset that they spumed at Beatrix. And because I forgot to reapply Bosch's lock, but it doesn't. We're fine. One thing I will say is with the delays, it's a little bit trickier to use Beatrix as holding that safeguard. Well, not tricky. I say trickier. Like you use it and then it'll delay her by 2 turns, so she doesn't get to use a skill immediately afterwards. Like the buff is still there. Actually, in some ways, it's better because it delays her, and then you get like a few turns of it being a 2-turn buff instead of a 1-turn buff because they extended it. So actually, it probably works even better. I just, because I had Bosch, I figured why bother using that. Hindsight, I probably didn't even need to bring Bosch. You'll see here, with these bubbles out, Beatrix's counter is just ticking down Leviathan on the side there. It's great. Does mean lots and lots of animation. It's a good thing I love this animation, otherwise we'd be in trouble. There we go. Bubble's gone. So I think there's one more round of those things coming back. And I kind of don't mind them being here because it just means more counter damage from Beatrix. Reapplying lock so that we don't have any more Spume fiascos. Spume. That just sounds upsetting. I don't know what that is, but I don't want to know. The Tidal Spiral. That's a cool name. That's a name that isn't upsetting. Rose Petals, cool name, not upsetting. Spume, very upsetting. I hate it. Anyway, leave a comment down below if you actually know what that means and can save me from my terribly overactive imagination. There we go. Once again, Beatrix countering, dispelling. So yeah, as you can see, a lot of mechanical pieces to this fight, but it's not too hard to bring your own pieces on the team that just hard counter them. Yeah, the self-delay is annoying, but you can work around that. The enemy's taking lots of turns and HP attacks. You can mitigate that, and with the reductions as low as they are, it's not too difficult to hit the damage requirements for this fight. Really, the one thing to watch out for, I would say, probably is... the one thing to watch out for is the amount of HP attacks, so bring some kind of mitigation tank or something. But once you got that checked, just, something that can keep the orb from being a problem, because I'm guessing that battery cutting, like the battery negating debuff that the orb attack puts up would be pretty annoying. Thinking about summoning there, but decided not to because like I said, with the bubbles out, that's more HP damage for Beatrix to deal to Leviathan through counters, so why the heck not? Spam that Rem LD. I say she is just tremendous as far as an LD support. I know it's funny talking about any support other than Ramza right now, isn't it? Ramza is just goofy. Maybe I should have done a Ramza. I wonder if a Ramza video would have gotten more clicks. I don't know. Still on that grind to 1K, less than 150 to go, but definitely the channel's taken a bit of a slowdown since Baby showed up, which is, understandable. It's kind of how it goes, but we'll see if we can't keep on trucking. Feel free to share the channel with people. I don't know. Shilling feels gross. I do it at the beginning because I have to, but. You can tell this is a very engaging fight because at this point I'm talking about 1.3 mil. Oh yeah, a little misplay I did. I swapped with Rem to get Beatrix next so that Beatrix would have her EX up with Rem's special Brave floor buff. But that wasted the Hellfire for Rem, and honestly, because of how little reduction the boss has, I think Beatrix was going to cap anyway, so it's probably not the greatest play. So I was hoping that Bosch would kill here, but I made a mistake here as well. I should have used his LD. His LD has 1 more HP attack than his EX. His whole kit is 3 HP dumps instead of his LD, which is 4. I think his LD might have killed. Possibly. Well, maybe not, because Beatrix's counter didn't kill there, so... And that counter didn't kill, so okay, maybe... I guess it was kind of didn't matter, but anyway. Oh, gushing. Gross. And boom. There we go. Leviathan down, and I hope this was still a PG-13 rated video. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Adios.